noticed that particularly in the Bitcoin Spaces conversations on Twitter, that there tended to be a lot of veterans that were in the Bitcoin space, but there wasn't like a centralized, not really centralized, that's a bad topic for Bitcoin, but we noticed that there wasn't really like a community aspect for the veterans to come together and talk about how much both they love Bitcoin, but then different aspects of their military career and experience. And one thing that maybe some of you guys might know, because do we have any veterans in the audience right now? Hey, there you go. And speaking of that, how many of you guys, since we're in Texas, I got to ask, how many of you have Second Amendment appreciators in here? You guys gun owners? All right, good to hear, good to see. So one thing that we noticed, and what a lot of you may also understand, because a lot of us have family members that have served, is one of the biggest problems for military veterans is that once they get out, they tend to not have a community. There's a big gap left behind that they don't know what to fill that with. And a lot of them tend to struggle with that. So we decided that we were going to kind of like hoist up our own flag with Bitcoin and Bitcoin veterans. We're going to be like, hey, you guys come here. We can give you guys that community. We can give you guys something to fight for on top of, just being able to talk about nothing but Bitcoin and how much the Federal Reserve sucks. So one thing, a big topic that I wanted to talk about was 2024 was a very big year for Bitcoin veterans. For those of you that were at the Bitcoin Nashville conference, we had the Citadel, which ended up being a greater success than I could have ever imagined, and I think any of us could have imagined. We had a lot of you guys, gave us a lot of traffic, brought a lot of people down there, made us feel good and appreciated and acknowledged. We also ended up having Fred Thiel from Marathon Digital, I think it's Marathon Digital Holdings or Digital Asset Management, one of the biggest miners in the U.S. He ended up coming down and checking us out, and we are actually very proud to be able to say that we have a number of Bitcoin veterans that are actually working for Marathon now. So, and like they want nothing more but then to continue getting more and more Bitcoin veterans. We have a lot of Bitcoin miners that are actually a part of our group. And then part of that conference, we also had Range Day. So Range Day was one of my particular favorites. We had a couple of our guys, Shane Hazel, if you guys know him, he's a MARSOC Marine. And then we had Randy, who was a former Navy SEAL, and a couple other guys like Scott from Paladin Tower Tactics. They were out there giving some actual good drills and training for individuals to kind of like hone up some of their skills with the sidearm. And that was actually be able to provided by Dan Jones of Dust Off Ranch, who is a National Guard Black Hawk pilot. That was actually really, really badass. He had his own land. He brought that out, manipulated his land a little bit, and then created a couple of ranges for us to be able to practice that stuff out. And then probably the biggest event of 2024, and I'm sure a few of you may have heard about it, was Hurricane Helene. Hurricane Helene ended up devastating it was eastern Tennessee and primarily western North Carolina. We noticed the travesty and the catastrophe that happened out there, and we decided that we are going to provide some assistance in the only way we know how, which is the military way. And the military way, for those of you that haven't served, is largely logistics and authoritative hierarchical leadership structure. What we ended up doing was, so I was in Iowa for the majority of it, but I ended up, we were leading some efforts to coordinate and aggregate a lot of different contacts to be able to get information. We were providing information for structuring like landing zones, primarily HLZs, which the acronym for that is helicopter landing zone. Because believe it or not, when you only have 300 square feet of land, you can't really land an airplane there. So we were helping out a lot of the locals be able to get resources in there, logistics and all that. And then Jordan, Shane, and I ended up going into the area along with Randy, Hunter, and a number of our other Bitcoin veterans. We went in there for a week. I was probably there for a week, but they were like, our guys were there for a couple months and ended up actually helping out in that way by bringing key leader engagement and all that. Now, I need to speed through this a little bit because if you guys have seen our podcast, I tend to rant and talk for far too long. So one thing I want to make sure to talk about is our specific Bitcoin veterans in particular. We have a BV that's speaking at BTC++, which is a conference coming up. He'll be talking about e-hash and blinded signatures for mining shares. That's extremely nerdy, and I honestly have no idea what that actually means, but you guys should probably have a lot of fun actually learning about that. We have a BV leading DC bit devs, which is primarily big. For those of you that don't know, the DC is like, probably the most important aspect as far as like trying to get policy and trying to manipulate some of the things as far as getting the politicians.
All right, guys.
Understand.
Sorry about that. Oh, here we go. We're back. I think we're back. Oh.
Military intelligence operation within the Bitcoin community. So I think that's pretty cool. And then the last thing that I wanted to plug real quick is that we have Bitcoin Alaska coming up in July 1st through the 6th. That will include 4th of July, as is the military way. And we have a documentary that will be covering that as well that'll be coming up. Speaking of that, another topic that I missed out on is we have our own Bitcoin Veterans documentary on the Bitcoin Veterans YouTube page. If you just look up Bitcoin Veterans on YouTube, Twitter, Spotify, you'll find the podcast, our Twitter page, and everything else. We tried to keep it as simple as possible because we're a bunch of grunts and some crayon eaters. So you gotta work with what you got. And then we also have a partnership with Bitcoin Sports Network, and we also have a number of mining projects that we have going on. We're supporting pleb miners, heat punks, and then a couple of open source projects that haven't quite gotten off the ground and running yet. And then we also have a golf event coming up at Bitcoin Vegas. So if you guys are planning on being there this year, make sure to look for us. One of the easiest things is that all of our BVs were very proud to wear our shirt. So just look for Bitcoin Veterans and you'll be able to find us. The last thing that I want to mention with the minute that I've got up here is that on top of that, we also understand a lot of the security concerns that come with owning Bitcoin. You guys hear about the $5 wrench attacks and everything else. We do have intentions and aspirations to be building out a physical security service. So if you want or have interest in that, please make sure to hit us up on Twitter or go to bitcoinveterans.org. Get in contact with us. We can talk with you at least about being able to do what you can now, and then any services we may be able to provide in the future. And then the last thing would be the Brave mission, which is something that Shane and I, that's our kind of like our baby, is we're working to provide PTSD support for veterans. And we're doing so in the very fringe, very judgmental kind of group, as far as like we're taking the very very more fun and holistic route of going around and taking the therapy as far as like getting veterans outside of the modern environment into nature, and then using some compounds like psilocybin and everything else to help kind of like smoothen that transition and be able to like make genuine connections with all of our soldiers, because we want nothing but the best for everybody. But enough about Bitcoin Veterans. Thank you for giving me the time to be able to talk to you guys about all this.